about just about anything. Let's go to Vuyo in East London. Hi there, Vuyo. How's that? Mm. Yeah, go for it. Mm. Okay, why? Yeah, but we've been saying climate change. We've been saying climate change for 20, 30, well, maybe even more than that, 50 years now. It's Vuyo. But it's happening more often now. Vuyo, it's happening more often now, and it's happening more aggressively, for lack of a better word. So yes, there have been incidents of flooding, but it's just happening more often, and that's because of climate change. We know there's climate change. We're seeing the things happening. But we can you and I agree that there are more climate issues at the moment than there were 50 years ago? Yes. Why? Why? The scientists are. Mhm. No. Okay, so 395 people die in KwaZulu-Natal, and scientists say, well, that's because of global warming, and you think it's so that those scientists can make money for by doing something. I don't know what they would do. Would those scientists build the roads or get contracts? But that's the joy of science. If science is proved wrong, they will accept that. So far, nobody has proved global warming wrong. Hmm? Hmm. All right. For you in East London is a climate change denier. Let us know what you think. 011 714 2006.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Hi John, Peter, DJ Storm. Just, you see the sheer audacity of it. You've got the eThekwini municipality asking for donations to a fund, for a relief fund. And I find that quite amusing, to be honest. Why must us as ratepayers and people who every month paying their taxes now have to go and donate to this fund? Where's all the money from the coffers? Okay, we know where it is. Maybe you need to explain it. And now when there's emergency, that fund has been deleted.
Good afternoon, Brother John. Brother John is private truck driver. Yes, you know, a place like Ridge, there, us truck drivers can drop water there, because if you go in there with our boss's trucks, these guys, they want to loot as well from us. So I think the guy is talking about something that I spoke about, but they didn't play my voice note. I'm saying drivers who are coming from Johannesburg, all the areas who are coming to Devon, please drop your water there by Ridge, and then the guys from Abahlali Basem Jondolo can come and collect the water from there. 20 liters of water and also tin stuff, we can drop it there. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, let's hope that those garages, those truck stops buy into the idea, because that will definitely help. Every little bit helps. As a reminder, can we play that ad again, the one where we're promoting Gift to the Givers? Can we squeeze that in again? We are here at the SABC also doing our thing. We're supporting Gift to the Givers. Let's play you the details. Get a pen and paper handy about how you can support those in KwaZulu-Natal.
SAFM. Heavy torrential rains have come with misfortune and devastation to the thousands of people that are now left homeless because of the floods. SABC, in partnership with Gift of the Givers, has joined hands in providing relief.
How long's the song? Can we go?
In KZN, it is our human responsibility to help our fellow South Africans in times of adversity and hardship. Let's unite to help the victims of the KZN floods get back to their normal way of life. Join the flood relief drive and do your part by donating today. Banking details: Gift of the Givers, Standard Bank, Pietermaritzburg. Account number 052 137 228. Branch code 057 525. Please use KZN Food /SABC Cares as a reference.
Thank you.
For more information, visit www.fm.co.za.
How long's the song?
SABC, in support of KZN flood victims. Don Medica on SAFM.
So that's how you can help. We're helping here as well. And if you didn't get those details down, you can go find it on the SAFM webpage, on Facebook. Go have a look on Facebook, facebook.com, and you should be following us and liking us anyway. SAFM Radio. You can find all the details there. You can see the pictures as well. So do go along and support if you possibly can. Every little bit helps. And you heard the truck drivers. If they are driving, maybe the truck drivers themselves could help as well. Yeah, we've got a couple of truck drivers that follow us. Greg's going to tell you the details, but there are warnings. The Weather Service has put out plenty of warnings about lots of rain happening over most of the country. Gauteng, Eastern Free State, southwestern parts of Mpumalanga, the northwest, southwestern parts of Limpopo, the Eastern Cape, and also definitely an orange level 5 warning on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. Please look after yourself. We really, really want you to look after yourself. We're doing our best to help as best we can. Oliver Dickson is up next. The cameras are going to stream him. You can go have a look. Go find SAFM's YouTube page. Our parting shot today, we leave you with the words of Marge Kennedy, who once said, "The informality of family is blessed condition that allows us all to become our best while looking our worst." Thanks to Andisa, Vosani, and Kanya for putting the show together. I'm John Garrick. See you again tomorrow between 7 and 9 for some sport.
Yeah, it's Keyboard.
Kinta.
Yeah. When I was a span.
81.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Which one?
But it's a Zoom.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
got to read. Can we see?
Yeah. Oh, kaya tala si Pete. Yeah. Then. Kumpa let's come on some more. Is this come on some more?
Hey.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on,
Yeah,
I
one of
say,
mine.
John, man, John. Where are you, John?
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. Then omtshela zokusetha i-sound. Sound.
Check sound.
Check sound, yeah. Check sound. Omtshela check sound.
I check sound.
Yeah. Umbulan. Bos ya kita udah le dan kita boleh framing ya ha. Ya. Kita itu udah lepas dan boleh framing ya. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, it's okay now. Yeah, that's it.
No, it's all good. Check it out.
That's it.
Yeah. Was that the last one, eh?
Yep.
Is a guest there, Oliver?
No.
SAFM 104 to 107
Yeah, no.
nationwide.
I'm sharp.
Perfect.
You're right. Thank you so much.
And impartial. This is SAFM News.
Funds to rebuild damaged homes in KZN and scores injured in Jerusalem clashes. Good evening. Human Settlements Minister Mameluka Kubai says funds have already been allocated to start rebuilding houses destroyed by heavy downpours and floods in KwaZulu-Natal. The death toll has climbed to 395. Meanwhile, officials say homes have been ravaged and roads swept away in Durban. Kubai and other ministers are in the province to assess the damage. Briefing the media in Durban, she said they will ensure that no funds are misused.
In terms of the National Housing Finance Corporation,
Can you hear me?
we have already started to work in terms of our reallocation as well. 150 million allocated
Yeah.
to be able to intervene.
Do you
But
have a
again,
fund?
Can
NCC
you-
I've sent you the
will
link.
contribute
Oliver,
an additional of 2 million
can we just
from
watch
their
this screen? It
corporate
doesn't
social
actually-
investment
These are
responsibility,
little-
which will be assisting in terms of the social needs of our community. Again, for NHFC, National Housing Finance
Just
Corporation,
watch the screen,
we do
watch the
have
screen.
capacity in
Watch
terms
the
of
screen.
project management
Oh, it's fine,
capacity
yeah.
to
Yeah,
assist the
that's- thank you.
province with
Okay,
rebuilding and
thank you.
reconstruction
Thank
of
you.
the houses in the province. No funds should be misdirected
Yeah,
to
sharp.
any
The
link
other
live, can
services
you send me the-
except where we want them to go.
Is it live?
Relief is on the way for Durban motorists. The last 24 hours has had
I know,
drivers
yeah.
panicking following reports of a fuel shortage.
And then check me
This is believed to
focus.
be the result of key
Yeah, that's
routes
okay.
having been destroyed by the floods, preventing the delivery of fuel. Transnet's confirmed that a special dispensation has been passed for trucks carrying critical commodities like fuel and medicine to be able to access and travel between the Bayhead container terminal and the port of Durban. These drivers who queued for fuel shared...
Dude, can you just put the link on Twitter as well, no?
And we've been driving around last night looking for fuel as well, and
Facebook as well, please.
Just out of fuel, people were panicking. But luckily, we've got some colleagues in the area.
Sorry, David. There's no link here. There's no link on YouTube.
Yeah, we also a bit concerned. No, not just on infrastructure. I think it was a lot of
David.
supply chains have been cut off.
There's no link on YouTube.
Fuel supplies are an issue now. We're worried about food supplies, so we don't know yet. But we're just taking it day by day as it comes.
Now I went to pick up petrol. There is no petrol there.
Lighting.
I have to come a little
Yeah, it's
far.
perfect.
I like it.
What is happening in this country? The best country I ever have seen.
The ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says government is making strides to fight unemployment, poor service delivery and gender-based violence. He was speaking during a Good Friday church service in Ermelo in Mpumalanga. He's also urged churches to pray for those affected by the floods in KZN.
Clearly there's a lot that we have to do in KwaZulu-Natal, and some rains are also coming down on the Eastern Cape, and we've already lost one person in the Eastern Cape. So that whole eastern part of our country is now affected by climate change. Climate change is a reality. It is now with us, and we now need to be serious in the way we deal with it.
The High Court in Johannesburg has dismissed with costs the application made by the suspended CEO of the Property Practitioners Authority, Mamedupo Muklala. She made an urgent court application to have her precautionary suspension declared unlawful. She argued that the board had no power to suspend her, and that the Minister of Human Settlement's appointment of the board in November was under the old Estate Agency Affairs Act. However, Teboka Sitatu, who speaks on behalf of an organisation calling itself...
Dude, don't forget to tag me in the tweets when you tweet, please.
Said it was dismayed by the judgment.
To say the least, I'm out of words, because for us it seems very clear that her constitutional rights have been violated.
At least 152 Palestinians
by
Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque.
That they sort out that plugin.
BBC's Yolande Nell has more.
Video shows masked Palestinians throwing fireworks and stones from behind barricades in the mosque compound as Israeli police use rubber bullets, stun grenades and batons. Police say they entered to disperse demonstrators and that several officers were also hurt. Hundreds of Palestinians were arrested before gates to the mosque were reopened for later prayers. Nearby, small numbers of Jews prayed at the Western Wall ahead of Passover, and large crowds of local Christians and foreign pilgrims joined the traditional Good Friday procession. There's concern the current calm could be short-lived. Confrontations at Jerusalem's most contested holy site always carry the risk of a slide into a wider conflict between Israelis and Palestinians.
Top story, the Human Settlements Minister says funds have already been allocated to start rebuilding houses destroyed by heavy downpours and floods in KZN. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Hoos.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Please, ungele mawustart, because I must be ready for you. Mawustart ungele, please, no. You just...
It is exactly 5 minutes after 6 o'clock. My name is Oliver Dickson, and welcome to This Week Today with me, Oliver Dickson, here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. This is a simulcast radio program. That means you can also watch it live on YouTube. So thank you very much to everyone joining us on the YouTube platform. It is a pleasure to be in your company, and I will be with you up until the top of the hour, 7 p.m. this evening. Coming up on the show today, 3 very important conversations. We start off the show by talking about the disaster that's been happening in KZN. Nearly R1 billion in damages having taken place. R1 billion in damages to infrastructure that has taken place out in KZN. And that number could be far worse at the end of whatever the audit period would be, where we determine just how devastating the damage may have been, right? Were there early warning signs, and why did we not listen to those warning signs? What should have been done to spare the more than 350 lives that have already been lost over there? Because surely something could have been done to spare those lives. It was not necessary for that many people to die at once. The most devastating natural disaster weather event in KZN's history, really I think in the history of the country. That's our first conversation. The second conversation I want us to have is about Watergate, a big expose in the Daily Maverick earlier this week, focusing on obscene corruption taking place at the Department of Water and Sanitation over many, 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 many years, and corruption potentially in excess of 37 billion rand, implicating senior officials throughout that department, and a minister that was moved away just as a disciplinary committee was making headway, and a minister then replaced her, says Mtunu replaced Lindiwe Sisulu, and shut down the disciplinary committee as one of his first orders of business in that department after it was split up by Cyril Ramaphosa. Lindiwe Sisulu having lodged a complaint to Parliament saying that she was harassed, her and her staff being harassed by state security. That's an interesting complaint. We'll be talking about that. And later on in the show, we're joined by Minister of Home Affairs, Aaron Motsoaledi. And we're going to be talking about some of the arrests that were made this week at OR Tambo with regards to immigration officials that have been found to participate in corruption and fraud. Home Affairs, this is not the first time Home Affairs got rid of officials. In 2017, Minister Malusi Gigaba had fired over 100 officials within the Department of Home Affairs at various levels and various border posts, including OR Tambo, precisely for corruption, immigration-related corruption taking place. There are questions to be asked about the robustness of that anti-corruption unit existing within Home Affairs, right? It's robust because it points out these people and they can't get arrested and stuff, but it really asks the question, why has immigration corruption persisted for so long? That conversation coming up later on in the show. But right now, let's jump into the first conversation. I'm joined here by Professor Dewald van Niekerk, who's the head of the Northwest University Center, Africa Center for Disaster Studies, and he's with us on the line. We're going to ask the question, what could have been done? What is happening really? And what do we need to understand about this particular moment?
This week, today, Fridays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Dewald, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate you joining us on this Easter Friday. You could have been with family, but here you are speaking to us. Look, what are we to understand about this particular disaster happening in KZN? How are we to make sense of it? Because, I mean, the lay South African is not studied in disaster management and disaster events, so we really are passive observers. But what is the intricacies of the technicalities of this disaster?
That is systemic and creates disaster risk over an extreme period of time. And what we see happening in KZN, I think, is one of those good examples where there's been systemic risk building up over a number of years, and now we sit with a significant weather event, the cut of low that we saw, and this just exploits our vulnerabilities within our communities. And at the end of the day, that's what leads to a disaster, and we should never call it a natural disaster. We should really forget that lexicon. It's not something that is natural at all. We have complete control over how we manage our risk and how we go about to mitigate it. And unfortunately, we now see that there's been a systemic breakdown of our government systems, the way we plan, the way we're supposed to execute our disaster response. And that all compounds and leads to this disaster that we see.
You make an incredibly important distinction that this is a disaster, just not natural, and it exposes a complete breakdown of government systems that are necessary to be in place to deal with this. Let's start with what those systems are. I'm assuming one of those are prediction systems that predict certain disastrous events, and a protocol system should be in place for how to respond proactively to it. What do those systems look like?
Needs to incorporate disaster risk.
Please close your door.
Planning and within the focus. So, in order to solve disaster risk issues, not only the responsibility of what we call our disaster management team. These are obviously the functions of the government most reported
Oh, Dewald, it seems like wow. I think you've given us a fantastic conceptual framework to work from to understanding disaster management. But let's speak about this particular disaster in KZN. What were the early warning signs, one? And two, were any of the preparations you speak about, like adequate training for first responders beforehand, well practiced out? I'm assuming that means we're doing drills once a quarter. Were those exercised? Two, was there a discussion around the vulnerability of certain areas in KZN long before any of these things would have happened, for certain housing projects to be either redirected or reconfigured altogether to make sure that people aren't given houses that are substandard for that type of weather conditions, but also to make sure that these houses are not in low-lying vulnerable areas? Let's talk about let's talk about in a functioning democracy in the ideal. When you get an early warning 72 hours in advance, what is supposed to kick in?
They must have a perception of this risk, and then they must have the correct action into it. In other words, it could be something like evacuate your houses, or just be on the lookout for rising flood water, or whatever the case may be. But there must be some kind of practice action into it. And if that is a break in that chain, then you have a dysfunctional system.
Do we have examples of where that system has been functioning? I'm trying to imagine at the top of my head where the devastating fires in Cape Town last year on Table Mountain that took out important buildings in the UCT precinct. I'm trying to think about whether that would have been a good example of it, or do we look to California and when those fires were happening out in Los Angeles? Is that an example of it? Yeah.
you haven't experienced. And that is why you see poor action. The people just don't know what they have to do.
Okay. Because my next question was going to be, and my final question as we wrap this up, watching what's happening and being a disaster management expert yourself, watching what has been happening in KZN, what would you say has been its most fundamental disaster management failure that we definitely should never ever repeat?
Well, I think we should take a few steps back, and I think proper urban planning is probably the main concern. You're not only talking about bigger and bigger infrastructure and bigger range pipes, that's just a small portion. But a lot of the damage that we've seen caused is because of very poor development decision making, allowing people to settle inside permission, and seeing that as the norm. And I think that is where the problem actually starts. It's not something that, like I said, starts yesterday. This is a thing that's been going on for years. And if we don't sort out our development issue, we're going to sit with these disasters year after year.
Dear Walt Fanikat, thank you so much for your time and really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Easter. Have a fantastic weekend.
Titan is logged in there. Can you see him?
Please play a spot break.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcast.
Can you see Titan?
No.
Of South Africa, PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024, fax to 011-326-3198, or an email to
David.
ccsa@nabsa.
The people on YouTube can't hear the guest.
It was low from the desk from that.
Pardon?
It was low from that desk.
It was low.
Yeah.
Or did you fix it?
Yeah, we tried to fix it.
Okay.
SAFM. Heavy torrential rains have come with misfortune and devastation to the thousands of people that are now left homeless because of the floods. SABC, in partnership with Gift of the Givers, has joined hands in providing relief to the displaced communities in KZN. It is our human responsibility to help our fellow South Africans in times of adversity and hardship. Let's unite to help the victims of the KZN floods get back to their normal way of life. Join the flood relief drive and do your part by donating today. Banking details: Gift of the Givers, Standard Bank, Pietermaritzburg, account number 052 137 228, branch code 057 525. Visit www.safm.co.za. SABC, in support of KZN flood victims. Freedom. What does it mean? How do we feel it? How do we act it out? We have the right to think and to speak. We are not being subjected to slavery. We are free. Happy Freedom Month with us here on SAFM.
It is 20 minutes after 6 p.m. This is the Friday edition, well, the only edition of This Week Today with me, Oliver Dickson. Thank you so much for joining us. We're streaming live on YouTube. You can simply go onto YouTube and search for the SAFM radio YouTube channel, and we're streaming live over there, and you can watch the show. Thank you very much for everybody engaging us on all the social media platforms. You can tweet me and engage with me on Twitter. It is at Oliver_speaking. You can tweet us directly at SAFM radio, or you can find me on Facebook, Oliver Dickson, and you and I can engage over there as well. I want to tell you a horrific story, and I really do want to slow down here because it sounds like something that should never have happened. There was an Auditor General report into financial management at the Department of Water and Sanitation, like there are reports by the AG into every government institution. This report found fruitless and wasteful expenditure and irregular expenditure. Now, a difference between fruitless and wasteful expenditure is that it just didn't work out. Irregular expenditure means that it didn't follow procedures and therefore is tantamount to corruption, right? That's what irregular expenditure means. What happened at the Department of Water and Sanitation is that a massive investigation was done into this after that AG report, and this investigation was initiated by Minister Lindiwe Sisulu. Minister Lindiwe Sisulu said 17 billion rand is a lot of money to just lose like that. Let's investigate this. And then her own investigation found that really it was 37 billion rand in fruitless, wasteful and irregular expenditure. And that report implicated many, many officials across the infrastructure of that department, from DGs to DDGs to just about everybody at a senior level, including at a ministerial level, really. And she then appointed, based on a recommendation of that task team, a disciplinary committee to look into this. The disciplinary committee then started doing its work, and as soon as it started doing its work, got harassed, according to the report, got harassed by state security, and Minister Lindiwe Sisulu launched a complaint with the department, with the Portfolio Committee on Intelligence in Parliament, talking about the persecution and harassment of her and her staff in hotels. Their spouses got harassed by state security officials, she claims. And soon after she lodged that complaint with Parliament, President Ramaphosa initiated a cabinet reshuffle, split up human settlement, water and sanitation back into two different departments, removed Minister Sisulu from there, placed her in tourism, appointed Minister Mqunu for water and sanitation, and Mr. Mqunu shut down that disciplinary committee. Doesn't exist anymore. So 37 billion rand gone into the wind, and there's nothing to show for it. The report also speaks about how just about every water board in this country is deeply corrupted. I'm joined on this in this conversation. Incredibly important conversation. If you do want to participate in it, please do send us give us a call or do send us a WhatsApp voice note, and I prefer those voice notes on 0614 104 107 0614 104 107, and you and I can engage over there. Keep those voice notes short and under a minute. Do tweet me at Oliver_speaking. I'm joined by Anthony Turton, who's an affiliated professor in the Center for Environmental Management at the University of the Free State. But Anthony Turton is also a former DG in the Department of Water and Sanitation. Anthony, thank you so much for your time on this wonderful Easter weekend. Really do appreciate you joining us. How did we possibly get here? What about our state apparatus is so weak that 37 billion rand can go wasted and corrupted unabated?
So thanks for having me on air. I just want to correct you. I was not a former DG of Water Affairs. I was a senior fellow at the CSIR, where I was responsible for the National Water Program. But yes, you asked a very, very important question there, and it's a very complicated, very messy can of worms. So let's just quickly unpack this. It started off with Nomvula Mokonyane, and she had a number of enablers, and those enablers included her special advisors, and they set up this whole thing, a very, very substantial, very sophisticated criminal enterprise, if you like, because the quantum of money that was fraudulently acquired was of such a magnitude that it was not just a frivolous passing crime. It actually required sophisticated money laundering capabilities, etc. So it is not a trivial matter at all. Then you'll recall that when she was fired or removed, there was an interim minister called Gillian Quinte. And what's interesting about him is that he had absolutely no knowledge at all about water. He was completely, nobody in the water sector had ever heard of him. And the first thing that he did, the very first statement that he made, which is a matter of record, you can check up on that period of time when he was appointed. The first public statement he made was that something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing now, that he's aware that there's corruption taking place in the department, and he has decided that it is in the national interest not to do anything about it. And that prompted me immediately. At that point in time, I was part of a coalition of professionals that were looking to try and clean up the water sector. And I put out a public statement to the effect whereby I asked the minister by what legal authority he had to terminate what was effectively a criminal investigation, because I understand the National Water Act. I know all the legislation around water, and I am not aware of any legal mandate or legal authority that he has to terminate a criminal investigation. So in other words, my interpretation was that he was put there to sweep clean, to get rid of all of the forensic evidence, which then makes him part and parcel of the problem. It makes him, in terms of criminal law now, he's an accessory to the fact. And so he's either one of two things. He's either an accessory to the fact of the commission of a crime by sweeping away evidence, or he's actually obstructing justice. So one of those two things. So I asked him in that context what authority he had, and that we never got an answer to that at all. So then immediately thereafter, he was only interim. Then Lindiwe Sisulu was appointed. And what's interesting is one of her advisors was none other than Mo Sheikh, and we all know Mo Sheikh, and we all know the whole Sheikh family history. So that was the Lindiwe Sisulu portion. Then this thing got too hot to handle, and she started saying, "No, we better start sweeping clean." And now what gets very, very interesting now is that when Minister Mchunu was appointed, there are a couple of interesting things that you mentioned now. The one thing is that the State Security Agency, the SSA, was involved. Now, I'm a former member of the Intelligence Service. I was a founding member of the South African Secret Service and NIA, National Intelligence Agency. In fact, this cap over there, you see that cap over there?
Yeah.
That's actually a NIA cap. Believe it or not. That's the NIA logo. Okay. So I come from that environment, and I was involved in the initial drafting of the legislation for our intelligence structures. And I can tell you without any fear of any contradiction that the State Security Agency has absolutely no executive authority. It is therefore unable to. It is not allowed to arrest or to do anything of that nature. It is simply a matter of legal fact. So this is where we are today. 37 billion rand is gone. All of the top, or many of the top people in the department have been implicated in one way or another. There's obviously been blatant attempts to sweep away the forensic evidence. However, from what I understand, there is a lot of forensic evidence that was found by certain whistleblowers, and that's been handed over. So that's the funny thing about forensic evidence. It's very difficult to get rid of forensic evidence, and you really need a professional to sweep it clean. And I don't think that any of these people whose names I've mentioned now were professional enough to actually sweep it all clean. So the forensic evidence is out there. And now the question comes down to a very simple one. The current minister has come to power under a mandate, a broader mandate by the president to clean out corruption. So the question is he going to clean it out, yes or no? So this is a binary question. This is not a grey area question. You're either going to clean out corruption or you're not going to clean out corruption. So it's as simple as that. So we're now in a position where the Department of Water Affairs, to the best of my knowledge, based on information received from SCOPA, the Special Committee on Public Accounts in Parliament, is one of the most corrupt government departments. I think this is a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It has been announced as such by SCOPA, and we're now in a situation where South Africa is facing a deep crisis in the water sector. Deep crisis, and that crisis is deepening by the moment, where you've mentioned now your water boards that are all implicated in one way or another. So we're starting to see systemic failure across the entire water sector. And central to that systemic water failure has been the theft of 37 billion. I thought it was actually more, but nonetheless, that's the amount that's been accounted for. So the theft and non-accounting of 37 billion rand, and that's a significant amount of money. So where is that money? What has happened to it? And in particular, if the money laundering aspect, as I understand it to be, has involved the movement of that money out of the country, then it would have involved a very sophisticated transboundary criminal syndicate, and typically that would involve the laundering of money into US dollars or other foreign currency, which then starts getting other law enforcement agencies involved. So we're talking FBI, we're talking American Secret Service, we're talking whatever other foreign authorities that are all first league players. They are also all involved in some way or other in this thing. So in other words, it's a messy business, but the bottom line is the department has been fundamentally hollowed out, and on the one hand there's a loss of technical capacity at a time of great crisis, and on the other hand there's now this crisis of credibility. How can we trust the newly appointed minister? We want desperately to trust him. We want to look to him for leadership, but how can we do that when all indications are that he's doing exactly what Gugile Quinte did?
You know, Anthony, I appreciate that you make reference to the quantum of forensic information in this investigation. And I do want to give a big shout out to Angus Begg from the Daily Maverick, investigative journalist there, who brought this investigation to the fore and you know, really gave these whistleblowers a platform to which this information can reach the public. I mean, the investigation lasted for 2 years, involving data and every communication with the Department of Water and Sanitation between 2011 and 2021. It comprises of more than 2 million files, 90,000 folders, hundreds of thousands of emails and documents, and more than 2 terabytes of critical data stored on an external server within the Department of Water and Sanitation. You can imagine the amount of human effort it will require to comb through all of that forensics evidence and the forensics capabilities that will require. So it's, again, the investigative journalists in this country that are saving us from the brink of collapse. But let's speak about the implication of just the deep-rooted rot here, Anthony. What's the implication? And the implication for me is 8-year-old Musa Mbele dying in Kwakwa, fetching water from a river for her family because there's no running tap water, when there were long funds allocated to solve that particular problem in Kwakwa in particular. That, for me, is the implication. But what's the broader implication of having a dysfunctional water and sanitation department and having dysfunctional and corrupted water boards?
Yes, well, you've touched on it at the very human level now. You know, that individual that you mentioned, that's a tragic story that you're referring to, and there are millions of tragic stories exactly like that. We even see now in the KZN flooding, where ordinary people are now scrambling to go and get access to water, you know, by picking up a leaking pipe in mud and surrounded by destruction. So this is where's the human dignity in this? Where is the promise of what the liberation was all about? Where is that promise about a better future, a better life for all in all of this? How can we justify the theft of this kind of money? But now let's go one step deeper. If you look at, for example, there are cases all over the country where water supply has become as erratic and as unpredictable as electricity supplies. Now, how can you run a business that employs hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and that creates a significant amount of income to the country? I'm talking here now about, for example, the motor manufacturing industry in Port Elizabeth in East London, the Eastern Cape, where you've had a substantial amount of industrial activity built precisely on your hydraulic foundation of the Orange Fish Interbasin Transfer Scheme. All of that is at risk now, because 37 billion rand is a huge amount of money. And you must remember that water is an economic enabler. And without water, you cannot attract capital and you cannot create jobs. That's the important thing. So the implication is that coming out of COVID, when the economy is on its very knees, when the engine that drives the taxes that goes into the fiscus, that pays for the social grants and pays for the very lifeblood for the poorest of the poor, that same tax base is under pressure and is going to be increasingly under pressure, because which rational investor would put more money into this country with unstable electricity, with unstable water supply, with a high level of corruption, with a patent attempt to sweep all of this under the table by the ruling party, a blatant disregard for the rule of law, with growing levels of lawlessness, looting, for example, in KZN, threats by the former president that he's going to unleash the masses to go looting again if the legal action against him proceeds. So that's where we are. It's a very, very dark place. It's a very nasty thing that we're at. And water ultimately is the foundation of your national economy. If you don't have water security, you cannot have national economic activity. So we've got to start thinking of a unit of water that is converted to a unit of value and a unit of livelihood.
In economic
That's
terms.
what we must think about.
Yeah.
Without that kind of thinking, we're never ever going to understand that this thing is of great strategic importance. In fact, it's a national security, and that's why the SSA is involved in this thing now. And the SSA, the mandate for them to be involved is something that ought to be investigated more critically as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, Anthony Turton, thank you so much for your time. Really, really do appreciate it. Scary story over there. As the story develops and as Daily Maverick digs deeper into that quantum of forensics data, we will continue to cover the story. On the other side of this, we're joined by Minister Adam Motsoaledi.
This week, today on SAFM.
We must act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building.
Mandela's legacy is carried by us as a united people. Let us stand together, because together we can overcome. We have done it before, and we can certainly do it again. Hashtag we will overcome. SAFM, leading our united nation in this conversation. The SABC News Portal is your one-stop digital platform for all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest and breaking stories. Listen to all SABC radio stations live, including podcasts, and also watch the SABC News channel with clips and live streams of all the big news events. Simply download the SABC News app on your smartphone from the Play or App Store. SABC News, independent and impartial. For unskippable, no clickbaiting, and cookie-free, with lots of real followers and likes, place your sales campaign on SAFM. Radio is still the best place to advertise your business at affordable rates. SAFM, with its national footprint and top personalities, offer advertisers distinctive opportunities to reach their target audience. Email sales@safm.co.za. SAFM, the influencer you can trust. SAFM. Heavy torrential rains have come with misfortune and devastation to the thousands of people that are now left homeless because of the floods. SABC, in partnership with Gift of the Givers, has joined hands in providing relief to the displaced communities in KZN. It is our human responsibility to help our fellow South Africans in times of adversity and hardship. Let's unite to help the victims of the KZN floods get back to their normal way of life. Join the flood relief drive and do your part by donating today. Banking details: Gift of the Givers, Standard Bank, Pietermaritzburg. Account number 052 137 228. Branch code 057 525. Please use KZN Food /SABC Cares as a reference. For more information, visit www.safm.co.za. SABC, in support of KZN flood victims. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
You make my life so rich. You know you could have been some money.
Hi, my name is Khomotsa Keiji Mweketsi, your host for Seasons, every Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 1. You will hear me playing this.
Hello, morning. Sunday, Sunday.
And if you love smooth jazz or all kinds of jazzy sounds, you can hear me do this. Seasons every Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 1.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SAFM. Heavy torrential rains have come with misfortune and devastation to the thousands of people that are now left homeless because of the floods. SABC, in partnership with Gift of the Givers, has joined hands in providing relief to the displaced communities in KZN. It is our human responsibility to help our fellow South Africans in times of adversity and hardship. Let's unite to help the victims of the KZN floods get back to their normal way of life. Join the flood relief drive and do your part by donating today. Banking details: Gift of the Givers, Standard Bank, Pietermaritzburg, account number 052 137 228, branch code 057 525. Please use KZN Food/SABC Cares as a reference. For more information, visit www.safm.co.za. SABC, in support of KZN flood victims.
You are listening to This Week Today. My name is Oliver Dickson, and I'm honored really to be in your company all the way up until the top of the hour. Jam-packed show we've had for you thus far. Really, really critical conversations that we've had. In this last segment of the show, we're going to be joined by Minister of Home Affairs, Aaron Motsoaledi. We're having a little bit of a technical problem in getting him on the Zoom line, but we will do so very, very shortly. While we wait for him, let me tell you why we're having this conversation. More arrests really have been made in the Department of Home Affairs, busting officials for letting undocumented migrants make their way into South Africa fraudulently. And these arrests are critically important because it removes the rot within, and I think, our ports of entries. Our ports of entries really is where the heartbeat of our national security lies as far as sovereignty is concerned. You're not a sovereign nation if your ports of entries are compromised. You're not a sovereign nation if people can come in and out of your country as they please, because you have very little control of what flows in and what flows out. And not just and I know whenever we have this conversation, the thought that is conjured up is really of the impoverished Zimbabwean making their way into South Africa through the Beitbridge border, unnoticed, and trying to make a living in South Africa. That's not the only problem with a porous border or a porous port of entry. Really, there are other more significant and equally significant implications to having a weakened port of entry that weakens our state security effectively, and that is things like the outflow of money and minerals. Do you guys remember that story about the Guptas trying to make their way out of South Africa through a private port owned by the owned by the Oppenheimers, OR Tambo? The Guptas were trying to smuggle some diamonds out of the country. It's an actual story. That's the implication of having a weakened port of entry. OR Tambo is our one of our busiest ports of entries in the country, and we need to take serious what comes in and out of OR Tambo. And I'm talking child trafficking. In 2017, I remember a very, very important bust being made at OR Tambo by Minister Gigaba and his team then, blocking child trafficking of 3 children who would have potentially have been trafficked out of South Africa. And that was a very, very important bust that they were able to make there. And so it's important that we have these conversations. And if you have any questions for Minister Motsoaledi, you can give us a call. The number to dial, in fact, we prefer the voice notes. So give us a voice note on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. You can SMS us on the SMS line, which is 41391. You can tweet me. It is at Oliver_speaking. That is on Twitter, Oliver Dickson on Facebook, or you can simply find us at SAFM Radio on all your social media platforms, and we'll be able to engage over there. It's a critically important conversation, and Minister Motsoaledi will be joining us in just a second as we begin this conversation.
The SABC News Portal is your one-stop digital platform for all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest and breaking stories. Listen to all SABC radio stations live, including podcasts, and also watch the SABC News channel with clips and live streams of all the big news events. Simply download the SABC News app on your smartphone from the Play or App Store. SABC News, independent and impartial. This week, today with Oliver Dickson.
Minister Motsoaledi, thank you so much for joining us on This Week Today. It's an Easter weekend. You really could have been with your family, but you chose to be with us. Accountability and the work of government never ever stops, and I thank you for joining us. Let's talk about this arrest that was made this week at OR Tambo. Was this the efforts of the counter-corruption unit within the Department of Home Affairs, or was this from a different tip-off system?
Good evening, Oliver. Good evening to the viewers and listeners out there. Indeed, it is the work of the counter-corruption unit in Home Affairs, working with other agencies like the Hawks, SARS, an airport company of South Africa, the South African Police Services, and other agencies. But primarily, the people who initiate this type of thing are the people who initiate is the counter-corruption unit in Home Affairs.
Minister, in 2017, Minister Gigaba made a similar bust at OR Tambo. Several officials were arrested there. Similar bust was made at the Maseru border posts. More than 100 Home Affairs officials have been kicked out in 2017 alone. You've come along and more of those sort of busts have been made, more people being arrested and kicked out of the Department of Home Affairs. What is it about the institutional apparatus at Home Affairs that allows for staff to come in and so easily abuse the system for fraudulent and corrupt means? Isn't there ways to tighten this up a little bit more? And I'm not talking about making it more bureaucratic, but I'm talking about making the system more sophisticated and independent of human touch, so to speak. We can talk here about the deployment of technology in immigration services. What about it is about the system makes it so vulnerable to this sort of manipulation?
Well, in the whole of government, other government departments, when they talk about corruption, they talk about supply chain. Somebody who has to issue tenders and contracts. That's what corruption means in other government departments. But in Home Affairs, in every single office, be it one of the 412 offices where you apply for an ID and all that, there's room for corruption because of people who might like to bribe you. Be it in any one of the 72 ports of entry. That means the official gates at the borders, airports, seaport, and land ports who want to get into the country. There's a room for corruption. In the permitting sector, where people ask for corporate visas, business visas, study visas, visitors visas, spousal visas, permanent residence permit, and all those, there is room for corruption. And then there is this the issue of procurement, like in any other department. So Home Affairs have got many areas where that corruption can happen. But yes, I agree with you. We do deploy technology, Oliver, but let this be clear to you. Any system is as good as the people who operate it. You can buy whatever sophisticated car there is, a sophisticated plane there is. If the pilot or the driver wanted to get involved in an accident, it will do so. Even yourself there, I'm sure you have got systems that you are following in broadcasting and all that. But if you want to wreck them, you can do so. Now, in terms of technology, yes, you can. It's as good as the people who do that, which means the type of people who are there also matter. But in terms of technology, yes, we do improve it all the time. Remember the green barcoded ID, which was very easy to defraud. The Home Affairs Department changed in 2013 to move to a smart card, which is much safer. Then there's an issue of what permits a person to get into the National Population Register, to issue an ID, a passport, a birth certificate, a death certificate, etc., etc. In the past, they used to use passwords, which in terms of technology is advanced technology, to get into a computer only with a password, which is known only by you. But those passwords were breached. People were found to, passwords were found to have been used. And when you ask the person, he says, no, I was not even there. And they produced a medical certificate. They said, I was sick. Maybe my password was stolen. The department changed and used a system called backup, where you can only get with your fingerprints. But the people who caught in Krugersdorp last week and even at OR Tambo, they went in with their fingerprints. They don't mind that we are going to find their fingerprints. And actually, we are going to find them through those fingerprints. So technology, yes, but human beings matter the most.
Minister, I just want to wrap up a last final question here, because Minister Mkunu is on the line for us to comment on the previous conversation we had here. The last time I saw you, you were speaking at the Public Service Summit and you begged Minister Godongwana for more money to hire more staff because you said you were grossly understaffed. But you pleaded with the union, the labor movement that was present there, and said, we need people with integrity in Home Affairs. And you once again say a system is only as good as the people that work it. What are the efforts in place to make sure that we get people with integrity who've got access to the National Citizen Registry, to make sure that it is people that, to make sure that those people can become as close to incorruptible as possible?
Yeah, firstly, I was telling that to the unions because there's a lady who was sent to our Home Affairs office, to our mission in Namibia, to do Home Affairs work, because every mission has got a Home Affairs employee. She started selling visas to Pakistani nationals to come here illegally. And when we charged her, the union fought. We had to fight with the union. So what I was telling the unions was that, please defend your people, but not when they sell your own country. Also be patriotic. In other words, fight for your members, but be patriotic and say, oh, when it comes to the interest of the country, your membership of unionism can stop. Can wait. Now you are saying, what more do we need to do? Yes, firstly, we do vetting. We vet our people, but secondly, we have decided that periodically, especially those who work in sensitive areas, we are going to be doing a lot of what you call lifestyle audits. We must do them periodically for those people. Like we are now going to deploy 200 people as the first group of border guards. Of course, they can be bribed and anybody come in. So we have vetted them, but we are going to be doing lifestyle audit to see those who are living above their means. then we start investigation. But we also rely on the public, people like you in the media and the public, to tip us, and they do tip us a lot, and it helps a lot, and they must know that they are part and parcel of this fight against corruption.
Minister Motsoaledi, thank you so much for your time. Happy Easter. Have a fantastic weekend with your family. Stay safe.
Same to you and the listeners. Thank you.
That was Minister Aaron Motsoaledi, Minister of Home Affairs. We've got Minister Senzo Mqunu, who's on the telephone line with us. Minister Mqunu, good evening.
Good evening to you and the listeners.
You would like to comment, Minister, on a conversation we had earlier with our guest with regards to the expose by Daily Maverick.
Okay. I happen not to have heard it, but Kamkhelo, who is media liaison for the minister, for us, heard the conversation, and I got another call from one other minister who told me that there is this line or allegation that I was appointed as water and sanitation minister to make a forensic report disappear. Now, this is not being associated with Anthony in this interview you may have had this evening. In case he said so, or something like that, I want to refute that with the contempt that it deserves.
Can I ask you a more pointed question with regards to that?
Let me finish.
Yeah.
The journalist who wrote this thing in the Daily Maverick never gave me the name of a person or the report itself, a person who would have given me that report. And I tried to take as much time to explain to it. I have never received such a report. I'm not aware of such a report.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever given it to me or to DG, who has a full-time DG now, not an acting DG, not to any deputy minister. I don't know why people are talking about a supposed forensic report that we have on which we are not acting, when there is nothing that we have.
Yeah.
And we've said this in public.
Can I ask you this more pointedly, and we only have a minute before we go to the news, Minister.
Okay.
Is it true, and is it the case that within a week of your appointment after Minister Sisulu, that you had dissolved and closed down the disciplinary committee and the work it was doing, which Minister Sisulu had appointed?
There were 4 committees that we found there that were reported to me that had been appointed by the minister during her tenure of office.
Yeah.
Now, they were attached to her tenure as a Minister of Water and Sanitation. Now, the procedure and the law is that when you leave, in other words, they are attached to your term of office. And therefore, when she left with them. In other words, their term of office came to an end. I don't know where this notion comes from that I dissolved or disbanded. I never did that. It's a lie.
Okay.
And it's a notorious lie.
Minister Mqunu, thank you so much for calling in and stating that claim. I do think that we need to have you in studio to have a more broader conversation about at least the AG report into irregular expenditure within the department and what is being done to do that. So thank you so much for that and making that commitment.
Fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's Minister Senzo Mqunu, the Minister of Water and Sanitation. That's it for the This Week Today with me, Oliver Dickson, this week. I'm back with you on Monday morning, standing in for Stephen Grooters on SAFM Sunrise. A lot won't happen on the show today. A lot will be discussed next week. Stay safe. Have a fantastic Easter weekend. Mask up if you're in closed public spaces. Go vaccinate if you haven't vaccinated. If you're driving and on the road, be safe, buckle up, and don't drink and drive. And I'll see you back on Monday morning. Cheers.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Go ahead for burials in KZN, and Russia strikes a missile factory. Good evening. City of